It's so nice to be here with you today. So nice to be here with you to pray. The Lord be with you and with your spirit. Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you pray for your neighbor? Welcome, welcome, welcome to this special 4th of July episode of Father Ralph's Neighborhood here on the 5th of July. Last night I really wanted to record this episode for you all, but my neighbors, who are wonderful people, had better plans, and they decided to wage a World War III in our driveways and backyards, and it was really, really all afternoon, all evening, into the wee hours of the morning. So I said, rather than you having to listen to pow, 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 bang, pow throughout the whole thing, it might be better if I just waited until this morning and put out this week's episode. The 4th of July's never been a real celebratory holiday in my family. My father died on July 3rd of 1964. So we've never really celebrated the 4th of July until not all that long ago, and therein lies a story and a homily. Our gospel today continues our reading from the Gospel of St. Mark. We're reading chapter 6, verses 1 to 6. Jesus went to his hometown, and his disciples accompanied him. With the coming of the Sabbath, he began teaching in the synagogue, and most of them were astonished when they heard him. They said, "Where did the man get all this? What is this wisdom that has been granted him? And these miracles that are worked through him? This is the carpenter, surely the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph and Jude and Simon. His sisters, too, are they not here with us?" And they would not accept him. And Jesus said to them, "A prophet is only despised in his own country, among his own relations and his own house." And he could work no miracle there, though he did cure a few sick people by laying his hands on them. He was so amazed at their lack of faith. The gospel of our Lord. Whenever I hear that gospel, by the way, I think of a conversation that Mom and I had shortly before my ordination to the priesthood. And I told her how excited I was that I would be able to come back to say Mass at St. Thomas More, come back home and say Mass. And she said, "No, they would never take you seriously, Ralphie. They knew you when. They knew you growing up. They knew you as a kid. You wouldn't be able to teach them with any kind of authority. They just sit there and go, who is he? Who does he think he is?" And whenever I see this gospel or read this gospel, I think of that conversation I had with Mom. I was a little bit crestfallen, but you know what? She was right. So, anyway, getting back to this 4th of July thing, it was and always has been a tough holiday for our family. And I remember one of the little miracles that happened. Dad had ordered an American flag for me. At this point in my life, I really, I loved school so much. I was slowly turning my bedroom into a model of my room at school. And even though I was just in kindergarten, I wanted to have a clock, a little toy clock like they had where they taught us to tell time. And I'll spare you all the details of bulletin board and all of that. But one of the things I said to mom and dad, I said, I want a flag. Well, they misunderstood me. They thought I wanted a flag for the outside of the house. And the flag came in time for us to put it up on the house for the 4th of July. And everyone thought, no way mom's going to want to put a flag out the day after daddy died. But mom said no. He bought that flag for Ralphie, and that flag should go up. And that was really the last 4th of July celebration that we had for the longest time. Uh, our neighbors were wonderful. Wally Kuznicki, God rest his soul, he and his daughter Barb would come across the street. Wally worked for the railroad, and he'd bring a great big 2x4, and he would put railroad flares, these great big, bright, colorful railroad flares in the 2x4, and light them all at once. Oh, that was our 4th of July celebration, in those days. My cousin Rich Parmenter, God rest his soul, he used to go on vacation for the 4th of July by driving into Wisconsin. He loved rural Wisconsin. And he had certain places that he would go every year, and he would go there just to rest and have good home cooked food and everything. So he talked about this one field that they would go to every year to celebrate the 4th of July, where they would have a fireworks show. And what they would do is they would park their cars in a circle in this field, and they would light off the fireworks one at a time. Boom. And everyone would flash their lights and honk their horns every time a firework went off. That was 4th of July for my Uncle Rich. I have to confess, the most beautiful fireworks display I ever saw in person was when we went, Father Mike Flager, and he took us as like a field trip to Chicago Fest. That's how old I am. It was back when it was called Chicago Fest. And he got us a spot on the beach, and we sat there, and it was the most spectacular fireworks show I'd ever seen. But I got to tell you, the whole while I was sitting there, my heart was still aching because I knew where Mom was. Mom was at home. In the second reading yesterday, St. Paul talks about, in order that he not get too elated, that he not get too happy, that God gave him his own little personal demon, his own little personal thorn in the side. And Mom's thorn in the side, reliving almost hour by hour the last few days of Daddy's life. And I knew while I was on that beach with Mike and everyone, she was at home mourning Daddy's death, reliving the trip to the hospital and everything. So it was hard. I went on to get ordained. I went on to be assigned to Quigley. I went on teaching and coaching. And one year, one of my students, Steve Dieterich, Steve and I kind of lost contact. I'm trying to get his contact information. So if anyone knows Steve and his family and how I can reach out to him, I'd really love to get back in touch with Steve. But Steve Dieterich came up to me and said, he was one of my students, one of my wrestlers. He said, Father Ralph, why don't you come? Our family's having a 4th of July celebration. And I told him, Steve, I hope you understand, but I can't leave Mom home alone on the 4th of July. He said, why don't you ask her? Why don't you invite her? Tell her to come along. And I knew where that was going to go. I knew, Mom, celebrate on the 4th of July. I don't think so. But I'll ask, right? All I can do is ask. And would you believe, she said, what a wonderful idea. I'd love to meet your student. I'd love to meet his family. I'd love to go out for the 4th of July. And it was wonderful for her. It was not so wonderful for me because out came her wallet with all of the family pictures, including one of me from when I was commissioned, a dashingly handsome young ensign in the Chaplain Corps of the United States Navy. And it wasn't enough for her to show this picture around to everyone. She had to editorialize, right? See how thin he used to be? See how handsome he was? I didn't say anything. And actually, deep down, although I was mortally embarrassed, I have to tell you, I enjoyed the moment because she was enjoying the moment. There's a wonderful expression that says life is really only 5% what happens to us and 95% how we choose to deal with it. And so that 5% for Mom and for me, it was, Dad's dying on the 3rd of July. And the 95% had been for years and years how we just chose to shut down over the 4th of July holiday and not celebrate at all. We had that thorn in our side that St. Paul talks about. We had that personal little demon sucking the joy out of our lives. Well, all it took was an invitation that put the joy back where it belonged, that allowed us to beat down that demon, that allowed us to pull that thorn out of our side and enjoy the celebration, enjoy the love, and not let that get sucked out of our lives. All too often, things go wrong. Say a special prayer for our deacon, Gary Michael. His day job is working public safety at DePaul, and one of his co-workers, who we just finished bicycle training with, Deacon Gary, and some of his co-workers are now members of the International Police Mountain Bicycle Association, and they will be helping patrol DePaul on mountain bikes. One of the young men who he worked with at DePaul and who took that training with him suffered a medical emergency while driving and home, and went head-on into a semi. So if you could keep David in your prayers, keep all of his family, especially his 14-year-old son, in your prayers, and also if you could please say a prayer for Gary. Gary's not a real sentimental person, and I could count on one hand the number of times I've seen him cry. But he was deeply hurt. And see, the reason I share that story, those things happen to us, right? And there's enough of those things that come out of the blue that hurt us deeply. We don't have to go looking for them, right? We don't have to go looking for things to make ourselves miserable, right? There was a great song. I always heard it on Hee Haw, but I guess it's got more traction than just Hee Haw. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. Deep, dark depression, excessive misery. And that's how, that 95% can be sometimes. 5%, something happens to us. And we choose to live in the gloom and the doom and the despair and the agony, when what we could do is we could choose to see the hope, to see the love. Uh, you know, I'm thinking about all those people who were so horribly and suddenly affected in Florida by that condominium collapse, right? And you know what Mr. Rogers, God rest his soul, always told us, look for the people who are doing good. And that's where you'll find your hope. That's where you'll find your joy, even in the most horrible of catastrophes. So, first and foremost, don't stab yourself in the side with a thorn. And when something does go wrong, keep that 5% rule in your mind. So only 5% would actually happen. The other 95% is what we're going to choose to do. May we choose to see the people who are doing good, the people who are helping. May we, like Steve did for me, may we offer an invitation when we see someone who needs that joy put back into their life. Offer that invitation to help fill that void, help fill their lives with joy and happiness again. So, happy 5th of July. Sorry I couldn't record the World War from last night, but I'm sure glad it's over. Not as glad as my cat Sadie is, although I think she takes it pretty well. She took it better than me. But anyway, I hope you had a good holiday. Some of you are going to be off today on the 5th of July. I know our secretary at the parish is getting a much deserved day off. So if you are off today, enjoy the holiday. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be back with you again next week, hopefully on time next week. And homework this week is simple. Take that thorn out of your side and fill your life and the lives of those around you with as much joy as you possibly can. May the good Lord bless you and all those you love and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you, lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Love you all so very much. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.